big welcome to another installment of YouthX Live. Get ready to learn and be inspired by our changemaker, Dlamini. Let our experts unlock your potential by enabling your personal progress and development. And now, your host with the most, the one and only, Pamela Mtanga.
Hello and welcome to the Sport and Wellness edition of YouthX Live, courtesy of Unlock.me by Nedbank. My name is Pamela Mtanga and I am your host with the most. Last month was a very difficult time for our country as we experienced unrest, particularly in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. As a result, people lost their jobs, their businesses, and some people unfortunately lost their lives. Most are in the process of rebuilding, and we are hopeful that there is light at the end of the tunnel. On the upside, South Africa bid farewell to athletes who were representing the country at this year's Olympics in Tokyo. We would like to congratulate and commend everyone who kept us really inspired and represent the nation at this difficult time. As the late Nelson Mandela said, sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to the youth in a language that they understand. So, as we celebrate our local heroes in sports, today we will be shining a light on our changemaker for sport and wellness, Dlamini, also known as Captain, my captain. Her journey began from playing football in the streets to representing the country during the 2016 Summer Olympics, and now she's gracing our screens on Africa's leading sports broadcaster, SuperSport. Not only is she a football analyst, but Amanda wears so many hats. She is a brand ambassador, model, businesswoman, and was recently appointed as senior commercial and marketing manager at the South African Football Association. So, in the spirit of celebrating Women's Month, who better to inspire those of us interested in sport and wellness than the former Banyana captain herself? Today, we are taking a deep dive into sport and wellness, and hopefully we can answer some of those burning questions about this exciting field. It is Women's Month after all, so we have an all-women lined up today. I'm so ready to be inspired, and I hope you are too. We kick things off today with TalkX, which will be led by our changemaker, Dlamini, followed by Money Talks with Sisandile Cikido, the head of retail investments at Nedbank. And for the last part of the show, we have a power panel discussion with Amanda Sisandile and our local changemaker, Thandy Matlaila. So you might know Thandy and you have seen her on our screens, but that's not all she's about. She is also a marathon runner and a registered aspiring athlete with Athletics South Africa. So this will be facilitated by award-winning sports broadcaster, TV and radio presenter, Thato Moeng. So, ladies and gents, during each segment, please do feel free to interact with our guests by asking questions and keep it unlocked to the YouthX platform. We have loads in store for you, including cash prizes, networking opportunities, and the hottest ticket in town, the YouthX Summit. It is just around the corner, by the way, so if I were you, I would definitely keep it unlocked to YouthX. So Unlock.me by Nedbank is also committed to empowering you with all the knowledge and skills to unlock your full potential. So I highly recommend that you check out the polls and vote for the topics that you would like for us to tackle. So, plus, it's one of the easiest ways for you to earn points and win. So let's go.
TalkX.
Wasting any more time, let's get into the first part of the show. It's called TalkX with our sport and wellness changemaker. She's an Olympian, a football analyst, and former national team captain who continues to inspire many. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Amanda Dlamini.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for the great introduction. To all our viewers who are joining us, welcome to our Sports and Wellness Masterclass. Thank you for joining us. and actually being here so that we tell our stories and hopefully to inspire the generations. My name is Amanda Dlamini, as introduced, the former captain of Banyana Banyana, two-time Olympian as well as a football analyst. So for me, I want to always introduce myself that way because it's just a reminder to say that all things are possible, no matter where you come from. So just a brief background of where I come from. I was born in the rural areas of Ehadingi. I have a younger brother who's my only sibling, born into a family of 2 educators, teachers. I think already that on its own sort of highlights how strict of a family that would have been, and just the concentration of academics in that household. So for me, family relations and family support was something that was very important in discovering the talent that I had growing up in the rural areas, not being able to have infrastructure, not having the facilities to try and pursue this footballing career. And actually I started off as a netball player, a volleyball player, but also as an athlete. But because of the lack of infrastructure back in the rural areas, some of those talents that I had unfortunately had to go by the side way, and I had to focus on my soccer because everywhere you went in Harding or every football pitch, there was always a group of boys that wanted to play soccer. But of course, growing up in a community that was never really exposed to women's football, I was that only girl, that only odd girl who would always be found in the midst of boys who were always playing football. For me, it started off as just a young girl who was accompanying my cousin to the soccer fields. I wanted to play. They threw me in as a goalkeeper, and the only thing I could hope for was just for the ball not to hit my face. But typically enough, I think that was where my love for football was born, and I never really looked back. The importance of the support structure back at home. My mom was very strict. She didn't want to compromise on my academics. I needed to make sure that for me to play this football game that I so deeply loved, I needed to make sure that I satisfied what it is that she wanted from me. And that was just to have good grades and to make sure that I was always home on time, 6 o'clock. You never missed a beat. So for me, it was very important to understand that my mom was really trying to instill some form of discipline and accountability, also being responsible for what I wanted and presented to her. I wanted to play football. The only way for me to make sure that she allowed me to play football was if I met the standards of getting those good grades, and to make sure that I was back at home on time. Commitment. For me, it was very important that as soon as I discovered that I had this talent, the support around me from my friends, my teammates, my schoolmates as well, teachers, I think that was a community that was built to make sure that I understood that I had this talent. Because as a young girl, for me, I just wanted to play soccer. I just wanted to express myself, find a space where I could exist as myself, purely as myself, and make sure that I nurture this talent that I had. So that support structure in the community was very important to hold me accountable and to give me that commitment to try and honor this talent I had to nurture. My fights with mom, beating the curfew and exercising that discipline, the awkwardness of not having my own change room as a girl. Those are some of the things that I needed to make sure that in as much I was not exposed to it or I didn't have that, I still stayed in the game and made sure I was truthful because I wanted to just see how far I would go and succeed in the game. Playing barefoot. For the longest of time in my footballing career, I played barefoot. My family couldn't afford the soccer boots that I probably would have wanted. So that for me on its own could have really discouraged me and not wanted to continue with the sport because our family couldn't afford a pair of soccer boots, but I stayed committed to the course because I knew that I had something special in the talent that I had. Managing expectations. I think a lot of people could relate with this. If you're a young, talented individual in sports, academic, whatever it is, a lot of people will always try and project their hopes and dreams onto you and never really ask as to what it is that you want for yourself. So you end up carrying these hopes of the community that one of their own could possibly be living that dream and making sure that we see the access and what is there beyond just where you come from. You carry community hopes. Of course, the projection of dreams on you is something that you always have to live with, but you need to be able to manage it. So from a very young age, for me, I didn't know what that meant. All I just wanted to do was to play football. That is why we always try and highlight the importance of that family support structure, the teachers as well at school who know exactly the kind of person you are, and the talents, your strengths and weaknesses, of course. Gender stereotypes around women's football. Managing that expectation as a young girl, I didn't know what people spoke about. People started talking about she's a tomboy, or she doesn't look like other girls would possibly look that play netball. So for me, it was a very difficult time as a really young girl to try and understand what do people talk about when they mention these stereotypes around women's football, because back in the rural areas, eHadingi, none of the girls played football. I didn't know what they were speaking about. I had no reference whatsoever, but instead they projected their fears of what kind of person I'd turn out and be if I got myself involved in this footballing game. The decisions that were made on my behalf, I think it's always good to have a support structure, people who will try and navigate spaces for you that you probably wouldn't have the ability to navigate for yourself, as that young child who carries this big potential of a talent of being the first young girl in the community to play football. They will make decisions for you, but at the end of the day, chasing the dream was something that I wanted to fulfill. I needed to commit myself. I needed to be very decisive. The social challenges that I faced moving from a rural area, whether I was ready or not, nobody asked me if I was ready or not to move into the bigger city, which was Durban for me. So pursuing this footballing career meant that I left the rural areas from a tender age of 13 and had to go and start a different life in a bigger city that I was never really exposed to as a young girl who came from the rural areas. So the social changes for me were a bit of a big step. And I think a lot of people know that if it is that you're chasing the dream and you leave home, a lot of people always expect you to make it from the onset, but it's never really that easy. There are things that you need to take into consideration, your academics, finding a school that is suitable for you to try and balance your education and your sports. For me, a second challenge had to be finding accommodation in that big city. Probably not having any relatives, you move into a bigger city, you do not know anyone but a coach that brought you into that city to try and assist you to fulfill your dream. But it's very important that we safeguard the talents. This is a very big discussion point for me, because in most instances, parents will always look up on social media. Kids as well will always DM us on social media and say, Amanda, I'd probably want to pursue a footballing career, but I do not know where I could go start or where I would live if it is that I were to leave home and pursue this footballing challenge. So the thing now is you can't expose kids to an unknown territory. And a lot of instances, the clubhouses, the academies that are built that these kids will always find on social media are not really verified. And I think for me, that on its own is a big danger in allowing kids to chase a footballing career or sporting career without the necessary guidelines that they will have to see and finally expose themselves to these academies that probably will not live up to the expectations. Vision board. A lot of people always still call this a myth, but for me, this is a true story, guys. When I finally arrived in Durban, leaving Harding in the pursuit of this footballing career, the social challenges, of course, and the social changes meant that I'm now in an all-girls team, which was Durban Ladies. I'm not used to having all these ladies around me. I'm used to having gents around me, people who don't mind what you look like or where you come from. And all of a sudden, I'm now being exposed to a group dynamic of all girls who also projected some of their fears, whether I'd be coming to take someone's spot, because football is about competition. And it's always about that starting lineup. But that vision board for me became a very close friend to me, because I used that black diary. I call it my black book. I used that black diary to make sure that I started laying the foundation for my future. What you want it to look like, what you want in it, exactly how you want it, you have to write it down. I say write it down because that not only will force you to refer back to that black book or that black diary to see how far you've come, or just to track your progress as to the dreams and hopes that you wish for yourself in that black book. It will teach you accountability, holding no one else responsible but yourself for your dreams, because it's a conversation that you will have directly with yourself, and keep it locked in to make sure that you're always reminded of what it is that you still need to do, where you come from. Because for me, it was important that where I come from, I wanted to make a change. I held myself accountable, a promise that I made to myself to say, I want to use this football, the talent that I have, to make sure that I inspire people back at home, but also ukushintsha isimo sasekhaya, to change the situation back at home and be a provider or a financial assistant to my parents. The discipline of that vision board, you will have to make sure that you put in the hours, making sure that I had to go to soccer practice, whether it was after school. I went to high school at Clarewood Secondary, back in Durban, catching a taxi or a bus sometimes, or even a train in most instances when we didn't have that much money for transport. So I made that commitment to say, whatever it takes, I have to be at soccer practice. After soccer practice is almost 8 p.m. I get home, I needed to do my homework, I still needed to make sure I iron my clothes for school the next day. And of course, you don't sleep, you have to study, because if you go back home, mom is always going to ask, how are your grades looking? And if it is that your grades didn't look great, you're always going to go back home. The setting up of coping mechanisms. When you start carrying those hopes and dreams and things are finally looking out for you, you have to have a coping mechanism. A coping mechanism is something that you develop for yourself, and no one else can create that for you, so that whenever the pressure is a bit too high, the expectations are a bit too high, you know what it is that you can turn to calm you down or give you that calm that you will need to try and do better. For me, my coping mechanisms had to be music, and it can differ. People are not the same. So whatever helps you to try and calm down and get you in a space of calm is it's absolutely necessary. So for me, it was music. I read the Bible a lot, and I made sure that I contacted my family, because those were the people that really held me down. So that coping mechanism then for me developed into something I could always get strength from, to make sure that I do not lose focus of the vision at hand. You need to be precise. I also needed to be very precise about what I wanted to achieve, and hold myself really accountable for all that I've written in that book. You have to be bold. Varsity builds independence. The greatest opportunity for me had to be passing my matric and finally applying to go to tertiary. It's quite crazy how I actually got to tertiary, because a group of friends, we decided that we wanted to apply to certain universities because we wanted to go as friends. And those are some of the social influences, but also that peer pressure. My friends then realized that they didn't want to leave KZN, and I ended up being in Joburg all by myself, now wanting to chase this dream. So when I got to varsity, my dad then decided, you have to study sports development because it's something you can relate to. Oh no, Amanda, I actually think you should study geology. I'm sure you're quite following that. It never ends. The expectations, the projection of dreams, it never ends as you make your way or steady progress to reaching that dream. You have to study geology. I'm thinking, not even interested in geology. I actually wanted to study marketing and advertising, but I ended up in logistics, which I qualified for, graduated, and I was really happy to be an educated athlete, because that on its own is a stereotype that athletes are uneducated. It was an onus I took up on myself to make sure that I got through varsity, to show kids and everyone else that athletes can be educated. It is possible to balance education and a sporting career. Choosing study courses suitable for you and ones that will serve your interests. I did sports development, of course, but all the other courses that I wanted to do just did not align or speak to me. So sometimes a lot of people end up finding themselves in career paths that they didn't want to study, or did not probably have the knowledge or access in finding out what it is that I can do to fulfill my sporting dream, not directly maybe as an athlete on the court or on the pitch, but you still have an opportunity to be directly involved in a sport that you are passionate about. What to study? There's PR, media, there's health and nutrition, broadcasting, physiotherapy. The field of sport is very, very huge, guys. Don't limit yourself. But also the application of sports bursaries is very important, because I got through tertiary because of a sports bursary I applied for. So indeed, if it is that sometimes you struggle back at home, family and finances are not really up to scratch, you have an opportunity to take the onus on yourself to apply for a sports bursary, make sure that your academics are going well in line with your talent, and you could actually relieve your parents of that financial burden of getting through varsity. So use your talents wisely. Living the dream. I honestly have to say, guys, I definitely lived the dream. But it had to take a lot of blood, sweat and tears, a lot of commitment as well, a lot of hard work, putting in the hours and investing on my talents and making sure that my skills were up to scratch so that I could be different when I entered the Banyana setup. So living the dream, don't be afraid to be the first. I say this because I found myself being one of those players that were exposed to a lot of many firsts. A first salary, a first endorsement deal with one of the big brands in the sporting spaces. The first corporate deal, being able to be part of a campaign that exposed me to my first billboard as an athlete, as a female athlete in South Africa. My first Olympic Games back in 2012 in London as the first team captain to qualify the team ever for a big or a major tournament such as the Olympic Games. The first female ambassador for many corporate brands, and all I wanted to do was just to really inspire young girls to make sure that they believe in themselves, that your background, where you come from, can never really be in the way of your success. So living the dream, of course, you have to exist as yourself in a team dynamic. And a lot of people, once you are considered as one of those stars, a lot of people want to be a superstar and want to take the shine from the team. It's very important that even if you are a top player or a star or one of those individuals who are outstanding in a team dynamic, that you remain part of the team, but still exist as yourself, because you are definitely unique. Conducting interviews. Living the dream, guys, you cannot live the dream if it is that you cannot articulate yourself in a very professional way, because this means you telling your story, giving feedback to your fans, family, about how it is that you found the game directly after playing a match. You have to go and try and find those words and express yourself. So how this went about for me, getting that social media training. Banyana were introduced to a sponsor who really took up the onus to make sure that we were developed not only as athletes, but also as commercialized athletes. And that meant we had to learn how to conduct interviews, which was something really uncomfortable in a class or maybe in a team of 26 individuals. The PR manager would ask us to try and conduct interviews amongst each other, ask questions, how it is that you need to answer questions when you're in front of the camera, how to include a question before. So there was quite a lot of work that had to go into that social media training so that you're able to express yourself, conducting interviews, one, in a comfortable way, but also in a language that is comfortable for you enough to express yourself. The fan base. For me, it was very important to make sure that the fans that supported me throughout the years, that you keep contact with them, because those are the people who appreciate you. But of course, those are the same people who will criticize you. That is why it's important to have a high level of emotional intelligence, building character, that bounce back ability. There are certain instances where you'll be faced with injuries. How you conduct yourself during that time of rehabilitation is very important. And I think a lot of people actually get lost when it is that they find themselves in that situation. That bounce back ability is very important. So of course, being that first, sometimes you have to do things first so that people can see that it can be done. The professional support structure. For many, many years, following and pursuing this footballing career, I entered boardrooms all by myself. I entered contractual agreements all by myself because I never really had the representation that I was supposed to have as an athlete, as one of those individuals who had so much potential. And this sometimes, of course, I have to be honest, it exposes you to people taking advantage of you, not only of your salary, but also of whatever revenues that belong to you. So having a manager as an athlete is very important because you will need that financial advice. You will need those investments in terms of purchasing either a home for yourself, for your family, but financial decisions. Most of the athletes, we just want to make sure that we want to buy sneakers, we want to buy all these good things. But sometimes you have to invest because a footballing career or sports career is very, very short. Medical aids. A lot of people never had these conversations with us, me particularly. I never knew I needed a medical aid because I thought the association would cover me and should anything happen, I'll be fine. But I ended up needing a medical aid outside the Banyana structures because I had to make sure that I attended physio to attend to my injuries and so forth, but really to cover my bases. Agents. Agents are those people, a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with them because they are the ones who go into contractual engagements and negotiations for you. And sometimes you walk away with something that might look good for you, but you don't know what intricate conversations have been made while you are not there. So it's important that we also, as athletes, try and do as much research about the laws, about agents, about managers, and their roles they can play to assist us in fulfilling this footballing career. The endorsements as well. Guys, endorsements will always come your way if it is that you conduct yourself in a proper way. But I've seen many athletes chasing after these endorsements and not really finding out what is it in for you. What can you get out of that? Because you're a brand on your own. You attaching yourself to these endorsement deals and other brands, it means that you've got something to offer. Don't let them shortchange you. But of course, you need to stand your ground and make sure you always seek the advice that you need. PR, media training. In most cases, when it comes to the professional support structure, there are a lot of things that could be controversial, the headlines that we wouldn't want to see, that Amanda was seen somewhere and was not well represented or did not represent herself well. Sometimes you can speak to the media, but it's always good that you have people who will guide you in terms of issuing statements for you. A terrible time for me in my career back in 2017 when I finally announced my retirement from international football. I was all alone. I didn't know how to draft a statement, a media release. I didn't know if I had to have a press conference. And I mean, I was a team captain for Banyana with so many firsts and so many records that went in the history books of women's football. But I was there isolated, all alone, and did not have a representative to guide me in drafting out a simple retirement statement. So it's very important that you have those people who can support you and make sure that you are well represented. Lawyers. Lawyers, a lot of people always think that we cannot afford lawyers. But guys, if we do our research, there are people who can always advise us, because when you go into legal contractual agreements, it's important that you always have lawyers who can advise you, even just from a purchase of a home or even a car, because of course a lot of people always say, these athletes love this bling bling and so forth. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you insure everything that you buy for yourself, because you've worked hard to be where you are, and living the dream, part of it is making sure that you're responsible. Building a brand. This has to start with you. You have to see yourself as a brand first and knowing how to use it to your advantage. Define who you are. You have to be really precise about what you stand for and the kinds of brands that you'd want to work with or collaborate with. Your values, what you stand for, your morals, what you believe in is quite important when you're setting yourself as a brand. Social media, how you present yourself and existing purely as yourself is very important. Most of the times we always want to search or chase the likes, the previews, the reviews, and so forth. And sometimes it's not really about that. It's really about selling yourself to a market where people will always remember you for how you carried yourself throughout your professional career and after retirement. Building business relations. Of course, when you are being approached by these different entities, you have to make sure that you present yourself and the brand very well. It does not stop or start with you just being a football player, but even when you're not part of the Banyana team or the national teams or the clubs that you play for, you still represent and hold those names and those brands accountable. You also have to be accountable for that alignment with those brands and make sure that you represent them well. Retirement. Guys, it's so lonely out there. Retirement is a lonely place, and those doors that people always promise that would be open are actually not, unless you start knocking. A lot of people had their fears as to how it is that I'm going to survive after football. But because of the many long-lasting relations that I've built over the years, being part of the Banyana setup, providing me a platform to actually have those relations with those brands have led me to this exact same place where I'm part of YouthX Live, because those opportunities came for me while I was still playing as an athlete, and now I'm here after retirement conducting a masterclass of sports and wellness. I never knew that my first encounter with Nedbank would actually lead me over the years to a job probably, or a presentation, even conducting a masterclass in front of you, because of how it is that I made sure I represented the brand really well and carried myself all the way to this point. And of course, how you carry yourself through all those years means how you conduct yourself in those interviews as an athlete, how you go into those boardrooms will directly set you up for your next job. And that's what I believe in. I always say that all the interviews I did as a player, as a team captain, as Amanda Dlamini, as a brand ambassador, led me to my job as a football analyst, because they never knew where I was. All they could do, all the reference that they had was just my interviews when I was expressing myself of how happy I was if I won the game, how sad I was if it is that we lost the game, or how disappointed people were or the nation was that we probably didn't do well at our first Olympic Games. All of that, whether you're upset, whether you're happy, people still demand absolute professionalism from you. Brand A9D. Brand A9D for me is something close to my heart. When I first got my big break with one of the biggest endorsers of female underwear in the country, and earned myself a billboard, I've always had that seed planted deep down within me to say that one day I'd actually love to have a sports brand that will inspire young girls that no matter where you come from, if it is that you have a dream, you can actually pursue it and follow your dream. So for me, that platform, that seed that was planted back in 2012, I made sure that I lived and tried to get a brand that will not only represent me, but many other people out there who look for comfort, who want to own their royalty. And it's very inclusive to everyone, because I think all athletes will attest to this. We always struggle to get stuff that we want to see ourselves in. Comfort is everything. But for me, it was making sure that I continue the storyline, that life after football does not stop, that if you're not in the spaces anymore, you cannot create job opportunities for yourself. And for me, this was just a mere moment to say that life still carries on. Life after football exists. And the storyline for young girls who don't see a footballing career exist, for the families, for the parents who don't see a footballing career exist for young girls, that it is possible and it can be done. Thank you so much for joining my masterclass. Thank you to everyone that has been out there. We look forward to your questions and interactions.
That was such an amazing masterclass. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pamela.
It's amazing. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling excited.
Really
excited, yeah.
Amazing. So we have questions for you. We might just call this a hot seat. So if you guys at home have any questions for Amanda Dlamini, please do keep them coming. I think this is the most engagement we've ever gotten.
Oh, really?
It also is
That's
testament to sport, how big sport is, right?
Yeah, but also the power of women. It's Women's Month. So.
Oh, yes. I love that. I love that. But also the power of Amanda Dlamini. You know?
Well, yes.
Exactly. The power of Amanda Dlamini. So let's go to the first question. The first question goes, what motivated you to choose a career in sports? And are there other careers, talents that you had interest in or wanted to pursue? Because I actually heard that you mentioned that you were looking at a couple of options before you got into varsity.
Yeah, I think, the lack of infrastructure and just the support, where other sporting codes were concerned, really forced me or drove me into football because every corner you found I'm a gang just enjoying a match of football. And I think that's what I wanted to do as a young girl. I just wanted to play. So I then got into football, and the support was just amazing from my coaches, my teammates who were all boys, and just my teachers also in school, because they're the one that really tried to get me to go for trials in Durban, and I eventually just started taking the footballing space quite seriously, just because of the support that I got.
Amazing. So support really is everything, hey?
It is. Also, I think you need people to sort of guide you in terms of navigating those spaces, because it's very easy to take advantage of a blooming talent, because there are these empty promises. We'll buy you soccer boots, we'll get you a house to stay, a clubhouse, and this. And it's easy for a young person to just be taken, by that. So I think you do really need that kind of support around
So
you.
it's funny you speak of that. I'm going to derail a bit. I remember we were at a Nedbank activation, and one of these musicians was so adamant that they want to perform on stage, and we offered them the opportunity to perform, and they were actually amazing. We were in Durban, and then we had to do another event with the same person. We booked them, and then turns out the manager takes 50% of what the artist makes.
Yeah.
So did you ever in your career come across any opportunists?
Yeah, quite a lot.
Ne?
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Some were really insulting just because of I'm a woman, and all these decision makers in these big spaces are of course male. But I think I was just true to myself. I just wanted to play football, and fortunately along the journey I met people who really wanted to see women footballers actually succeed and get the recognition that they deserve.
Amazing. So here's the next question. As a young girl, being the only one playing football around your community, who did you look up to and mentored you? I think this is a good question, because you said you wanted to see an example, or just see someone doing it for you to pursue.
Yeah. It's quite difficult, and hence I always really try to reiterate the importance of showing more and telling more stories about female athletes, because when I was growing up, the only time I actually got to see Uposha Modise or Veronica Pair was during an international match. If Banyana was in action, but apart from that, I'd never see them on screen. So I had no reference, I had no role model, to such an extent that I actually went for the likes of Gift Leremi from Orlando Pirates, because you see a lot of them on the screens and playing football. So those were the people. I guess Gift Leremi was one of my favorite footballers during the time, but then I also saw Marion Jones. Funny enough, in athletics, I saw Marion Jones and I followed her career, and of course there are certain things that you take as lessons, and there are things that you probably wouldn't want to use as your reference, but I thought to myself, those are the two people that I'd actually try and model my career around them.
So how do you feel now that you are that person that people look up to and they're like, I want to be like Amanda? Because now it means that the example that you were looking for as a child now exists. You decided to be that change you wanted to see. So how does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's really good.
I can see the modesty in the body language, like, don't say that.
The thing is, Pamela, the thing is, it comes with so many responsibilities, and sometimes, there's a fine line in terms of restricting yourself as that person fully existing in that space, but also trying to carry that responsibility the best way, because if you sort of are strict in what you do and quite rigid, a lot of people will not see, certain elements to you. So sometimes you're a little bit funny, sometimes you're very professional. So it does happen. So I think for me, it was important that I became my own reference first, because this is what I wanted to see while I was growing up and, navigating that space. So I'm just only hoping that the younger ones who actually look up to me would also feel the same way, feel represented and sort of find a reference.
Representation matters a great deal.
Yeah.
So the next question is, how did you handle the move from Banyana Banyana to being in front of the TV screen? Oh, this is such a good one.
It was a very difficult transition.
Really?
Because the opportunity came at a time while I was still very active in the Banyana structures.
Oh, really?
Yes, in 2013, because I actually retired from international football in 2017. So that meant a good 3 years in between, I was still very active in the Banyana setup. And sometimes in camp, I'd get, a call sheet. I need to be in studio. So I had to go practice first and do everything while we're in camp, explain to the coach, look, coach, this week I've got 2 appearances on TV, please excuse me.
What?
So it also helps that, we inform and sort of let our coaches know as well that we are interested in other things outside football while we're still quite active, because your brand also relies on how active you are while you're still in the setup, right? So you carry that momentum with you. So I just had to try and balance everything, get enough rest in between, because sometimes schedules got really hectic. But what I said in my presentation was the mere fact that I was standing in front of the camera while I was still playing for Banyana Banyana afforded me the opportunity to be in camera in studios, working as a football analyst.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then the next question is, we've seen you doing well for yourself in this field. What words of encouragement can you give a young woman who wants to follow in your footsteps? And I think she gave a wealth of knowledge in the masterclass. So this might just be brief, but I'll let you decide.
Well, I always say there's no substitute to hard work. And hopefully the masterclass will really try and navigate those sort of questions. But I think, more than anything, do your research. I think for me now, if I had the access that I have now while I was still younger, I probably would have navigated my path or my journey a lot more different, in terms of just knowing what is available, what is out there. I had to wait until Muntu Suge Makai and only get to the big city to be like, actually, there's just so many more opportunities. So do as much research as you can.
I love all the advice that you gave, especially. So with me, when I watch master classes and stuff like that, I am just so inspired by the fact that you're giving practical advice and practical steps. You're not just saying, follow your dreams. Someone's going to find you one day. You actually mentioned medical aid. You mentioned lawyers. All of that stuff people overlook when they get into the industry, and I really appreciated that more than anything. And I think even if you're not in sports and wellness, you can appreciate that wealth and knowledge, because at the end of the day, each man for himself, even if you are a part of a team or you work for a corporate, you actually need to be able to stand for yourself and back yourself. Right? And then the next question is, how do you find the change from the field to the boardroom, and now that you are working at the South African Football Association? Did you ever think that you would actually be in the boardroom?
No, actually not.
Really?
But the funny thing though is that with all the collaborations that I've had, with all the other corporates, even with Nedbank, every time I attend meetings, I always tell myself, I'm going to a boardroom today, so I need to get my act right. I need to be serious. I need to do this. So
you have to mentally prepare yourself.
So it's just part of my storyline, I guess, is that while you are in that moment, treat yourself as that professional, because you'll never know what other opportunities you find where they demand you now to be a professional every single day in the boardroom. So don't sleep on yourself. Don't sleep on yourself. It's very important.
Amazing. Don't sleep on yourself. I want to go through more questions via the chat room if we still have time.
There's more.
Yes, I told you, we have so much engagement today, and I think it's just crazy. It's the power of sport and the power of Amanda Dlamini. That's what I'm saying. There's 2,800 people tuned in. That's like, I think 12 times
Yay.
what I've ever seen on this app, and it's just amazing.
It's really awesome.
And I hope you guys actually tune into the masterclass after this as well, because I think there was so much knowledge shared, and you perhaps would have felt like the show moves too fast. However, you have to go back to it, watch it back, and write down notes if you can, in order to ensure that you're getting the best knowledge and ensuring that you are putting your potential, your money, and your lifestyle where your money is, okay? And then the next question that we have is from Cindy C. Wenzimande. She's asking, how do you keep fit? Because attending a gym isn't nice, especially when you've never attended one before. What motivates you? Firstly, Cindy Siwe, this is a question for you. You've never attended the gym. She obviously has, but I see you. I see you. So do you actually a gym, or you go to the pitch and still work out, like playing?
Yeah, I do both.
Oh, you do both, okay.
Yes, because sometimes in the gym it requires your strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
And of course, the field is more about tactical preparation of the game, getting your endurance as well. So, but I think one lesson out of lockdown for me, out of so many, is that, you know, sometimes you don't have to wait to find yourself a space where you can go to gym.
Yeah.
Have your own little corner where you have a dumbbell, at least out to out to just to pump.
All I can
now
say
and
that
then.
some of us bought resistant bands and we ain't never used them. That's all I'm saying.
So it's very important, honestly, to have those resistant bands and try and get programs that you can do at home, or maybe even just go for a walk, a jog, go to a park. Change of scenery is also very important.
Yeah.
So that you don't, become very monotonous and just do one thing over and over again.
Yes. Totally. So you must keep fit and make use of what you have. So you don't have to wait to go to the gym in order for you to keep fit. And I think another thing that people who are in fitness mention is the diet.
Absolutely.
I think that's where a lot of people struggle.
Absolutely.
Actually.
Yeah. And those cheat days, we see you. Yes. It's allowed,
Some
but
people have more cheat days than the actual good days. But I'm so glad for this partnership with Nedbank, man. It exposed me to you, because I think the first time I heard you was on radio, and the first thing I said was, she's so well spoken.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's so well spoken. That's the first thing that I said about you. So I'm just so happy that we got this opportunity to share you with the rest of the world, and just like Nedbank in general, and in the way that we're getting to experience you, giving practical advice, a practical masterclass that is really going to help the next person who's interested in this field spread their wings and fly. Amazing.
100%.
I think that's all we have
100%.
for today.
Yeah,
If we have any more questions for you, I will definitely call you back. We have the panel discussion coming up next as well. So if you didn't get an opportunity to ask Amanda questions, you have that opportunity to ask those questions in there. If I didn't answer your question, I am really sorry. You just have to keep active on the YouthX platform and make sure you ask questions. Ask questions, like questions, vote on the poll, because you might be winning awesome prizes. I'm looking forward to what you will be doing with Nedbank up next. I hope this partnership doesn't end soon. I really don't hope that it doesn't end soon. I think there's so much more that you have to share with the rest of the world. You have such an amazing aura, and you're well spoken. I keep saying this, you're well spoken, so it means that you have so much more to share. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank
and
you.
we'll definitely see you
Thank
soon.
you for the platform. Thank you.
Amazing. It is time for you to unlock your potential and put your money where your mouth is. Open a Nedbank Unlock.me account today with these simple and easy steps. Click on the hamburger menu on the top left of your screen. Select Open an Unlock.me account. If you are on mobile, scroll to the bottom of the page and select Open a bank account or bundle. Insert your age and follow the steps, and you'll be ready to go with your Unlock.me account. If you are on desktop, click on Open an Unlock.me account. Click on Apply on the top right of your screen. Click on Bank, then Accounts and Bundled Offerings. Show me all accounts. Scroll down to unlock.me and start your application, and you'll be ready to see money differently. Remember to keep interacting on the YouthX platform because it earns you amazing points that will earn you amazing prizes, whether you're uploading a profile picture, asking a question, or even voting on a poll. You earn points and stand a chance to win awesome prizes, courtesy of YouthX and Unlock.me partners, and they are Fashion Fusion, Jukes, Sphinx, and Bidvis Waltons. Now, we can all agree that our money talks are so informative, and today's money talks will be no different to that. Head of Retail Investment at Nedbank, Sisandile Cikido, is joining us once again, sharing more tips on saving and investing to get you ready to start that side hustle. Hope and you are ready to get started with Sisandile. Sisandile, please take it away.
Money Talks.
Hi, YouthXers, and thank you so much, Pam, for that amazing introduction. Thank you guys for having me back here again today. It is an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys again. I was so energized last time. I think I'm really, I don't know, I get really excited when I'm around the youth because I'm the older generation youth. I'm the Vex gang now. And I think I get so inspired by seeing youth doing things that are really amazing, that are like really game changing, and seeing how people really appreciate and approach life. So thanks again for having me back. It is Women's Month, and happy Women's Day to every single one of the ladies. And gents, we'll talk to you in another month, maybe in September. We'll talk to you guys about spring. But thanks for joining us. Today I want to talk to you guys about my wellness journey, both financially and physically. Right? So in there, we'll talk about weight loss, we'll talk about wellness, like I said, and ultimately financial fitness. Because I do think that the psychology behind it, if you guys joined my last talk, I spoke a lot about the psychology of saving. So the psychology for me is psychology, right? It's got to start somewhere in your mind, and you've really got to start from a place of recognizing what it is you're doing wrong, where you are, being honest with yourself, and having a game plan of reprogramming and moving towards your goal and destination, whether it is just in your weight or your life or your finances. So I'll take you back to a chubby little girl, beautiful dark-skinned chubby girl who only thinks that of herself now. But back then, I was the girl that got picked on. I was also the girl who all the aunties pulled her cheeks, and kissed the cheeks and all of that. And I was always called that tragic word, which I really dislike, is dula. You know, everywhere I went, I was the chubby one. I was the chubby one with my friends. I was a chubby teenager, and I was really overweight in my early 20s. And why did that happen? I mean, there was some genetic play, right? And this is what everybody said to me, that it's in your genes to be chubby. You shouldn't even worry about it. Your gran is chubby. Your aunt is chubby. Your cousins are chubby. This is who you are. How often do we hear that about our lives? You were born poor. You're born into a background where people don't make it. You're born into a world where you're actually not allowed to dream. It's genetic, right? This is where you find yourself, and you've got to forget about ever trying to get out. I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. So we've seen a lot of people thinking, actually, I am born into this family, and I am born into poverty, but I'm going to change my life around. And those stories are a dime a dozen if we look just around each other, right? So it is not just about your genetics, okay? I'll take you back also to a day I was in a retail store fitting a pair of jeans. My lowest point when it came to my weight happened that day. I tried to fit a pair of jeans that I thought I'd fit into. They were already big. And then I had to get into a bigger size. I remember sitting on the floor and folding those jeans and really crying because I was like, I don't want to be this size. Now, there's nothing wrong with being fuller figured or anything like that, but I was unhealthy and I was unhappy. Now we all hear these songs, Undibona ndityebile, undiphethe kahle udali, or Pot Belly really good, gives good loving. Now, kudos to all those artists, and I think it's important to really feel good at any weight and whatever you look like. But if you don't feel good, it's important to realize that it's something that's making you unhappy and you've got to make the change. Similarly, in my finances, I was around the age of 28. I'd bought a property that I couldn't afford, I bought a car that I couldn't afford, and I was overweight when it came to debt. And I was at the bottom of the bottom. Ended up renting out my property. Thank goodness I didn't have to get rid of it. And I moved in with family because I was overweight and I had to make a change, right? What I got right, like I said, when I realized that I was overweight, both in my finances and my actual physical weight, I was at rock bottom. But the beauty about hitting rock bottom is there's nowhere to go but up, right? Pastor Todd, one of these guys I really love to listen to, if you can find him on podcasts, etc. I love the way he speaks and I love how he makes material relatable. He says, you know what? Discipline starts off feeling off like pain. So when you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're going to gym, or you prioritize going to the gym after work, or whenever in your day, it doesn't feel great when you feel like you have to. But you do it one day and there's no difference. You do it another day, absolutely no difference. You do it for 7 days and you're like, kind of getting into the groove of it. 6 months later, it feels awkward not going to the gym. And only probably 6 months later do you really see a difference in your weight. Similarly, when you look at your finances and you think, I am way too far gone, where do I start? When you do start, it is very important that you be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself. You're not going to see a difference in the first month of you budgeting, perhaps. You're not going to see a difference within the first 6 months of you investing because, you know what? You've really not given it time. But it's something that you get right from the get-go. So if you start, you have to kind of see it through. Looking ahead, it is almost actually over 10 years ago that I looked like the pictures that you see on the screen. I've had my yo-yoing. I'm not necessarily at my best right now, but in my mind, I have the psychology of I know what to do to change my life, and I know what to do to change the way I feel about myself. I know what to do to not be a girl you're overweight and unhappy, Sisa. We've all heard them say, you are what you eat. Have we ever really translated that to you are how you spend and what you spend your money on? So as much as if you're unlucky like me, and I know some of you are lucky because you're also on the right side of 30, you guys are lucky maybe because you've got the greatest genes, but if you're a little bit like me, if you put in carbs into your body for 7 days, 3 times a day, you're going to see a result that you're not really liking, and you're not going to be able to fit into the clothes that you probably have in your closet, right? Equally, if you take the greens and you put them into your body and you exercise, like I've said, you are going to start seeing the right results. Similarly, when it comes to your finances, if you're taking a credit card to pay for everything and you really can't afford it, you're going to find yourself weighed down by the chains of debt and credit card debt. I'll talk to you about me once again, and I'm sorry if I'm boring you because you tuned into my last talk. But I've been in a situation where I was robbing Peter to pay Paul because I had multiple credit cards. So how do you do that? You get to a point where you're like, I deserve this, just like, I deserve this piece of cake. I deserve this holiday. I deserve these pair of shoes, and boy, do I love shoes. Okay, I've changed my game now from high heels that I'm wearing today to sneakers, but I'm a sneakerhead now and I really love to buy things, right? But I've had to learn to say, just like you're going to eat the piece of cake once in a while on your cheat day, for me it's Sunday. So Sunday, the gloves are off. I eat anything I want to eat because Monday I'm in the gym and I'm back on my green smoothies. Likewise, in my finances, I have a day or a period where I'm like, I am saving in order to be able to buy X. Whether X is, I mentioned in my last talk that I've got a pocket, a savings pocket that's called nice things, right? I've changed it now to soft life because that's the new terminology. But I've got a soft life pocket. And when I get to a certain max or a certain balance, in that pocket, I go and I buy myself something nice because I also deserve that. However, I've also got various pockets that are around savings goals and various other sort of financial goals that I have. So it's important to understand whatever it is that you're feeding yourself, your body will express it, whether it's through your skin, whether it's lack of sleep, whether it is being overweight or not being happy with your weight. Just as much as if you are going to go out there and spend every single thing you earn on nice things in order to impress, you're the one that's not going to be able to sleep at night. You're the one who's going to have a bad credit score, and you're going to be the one who was not able to focus on their financial goals. And I don't think that's what you want. Like our girl on the screen here, who has got this ball of debt around her that feels like imprisonment, because that's exactly what it is when you have bad debt. I do mention often that not every single debt is bad. So you've got your debt that is like your home loan or perhaps even your vehicle loan, as long as it's something that you can afford. And by afford, I don't mean just the monthly installments. So you must be very clear and be very honest with yourself. How to get out of, whether it is being obese, whether it is being in an unhappy state, or whether it is being in debt, is consistency. Like I said earlier, it's not possible for you to see the results instantly. Just like when you go to the gym or you go on that first run, it feels absolutely agonizing. You feel like, I know when I got into running, my first K, I remember saying to the trainer at boot camp, I'm like, how far have we run? She's like 250 meters. I'm like, what? Of a kilometer. But now I can run up to 10, 15, I've even done a 21 kilometer all by myself because I've been consistent. Likewise, in my finances, I'm sitting with a certain type of investment portfolio that's diversified because I've had to be consistent. You've got to be deliberate in terms of discarding that bad debt and redirecting those funds into investments where you can benefit from consistency, which in the investment world we call compounded interest, right? Because your money sits there, works for you, and grows upon growth. I've got before and after shots of me in terms of my physical, right? I also have before and after shots in my heart and in my mind and with my accountability partners about my finances. I'm in a better position than I've ever been when it comes to my finances. Also, I'm buying far less than what I used to, going out far less than what I used to. I suppose there's been a bit of a blessing with the whole COVID and lockdown thing because you really got to sit with yourself. And if you were lucky enough to not have an impact on your salary and your earnings, you really have an opportunity to really stare down your budget and stare down what it is you're spending on. So what are you going to do? Are you going to be the girl on the left at the Bryce stand, or are you going to be the girl who's just taken a picture after the gym because you've taken the opportunity? In your finances, are you going to be the person when, hypothetically, when you all get out of this lockdown thing and we're all vaccinated, are you going to be the person looking at yourself thinking, I should have done this and I could have done that? Or are you going to say, I'm so grateful that I really started chipping away at my debt and investing in my future self? I call it the investing in your future self because it's paying yourself first, paying the Sisa of, or the Busi or the Stephen of 15 years' time. Are you making that investment in yourself, or are you stealing from the Busi, Stephen, and Sisa of the next 15 years? How do we get it right? Practically, where do you start? I get these questions all the time. Sisa, you make these things sound so easy, but I really have no idea what to do to change my life. And I always say to people, it's the B word, girl, guy, whoever you are. The B word, not that B word, the other B word, budgeting. As scary as it is to stare down your spending habits, as scary as it is to look at what's really on your plate, a friend of mine had this calorie counting app at some point and we were all on it. And it really brought to your mind, like front of your mind, what it is you're putting in your body and how much of the bad stuff is in your body. I mean, it's sounds okay when you're like, it's a packet of chips here and a slice of pizza there, and then it's fried chicken here and there. But what it is you're doing to yourself, right? That's not an easy thing. Similarly, with budgeting, it's not easy, but you've got to start with looking at what you're spending versus what you're earning. And then separate that. I call it the 50-30-20 rule. 50% should go to your needs, right? That's your accommodation, groceries, etc., car payments, and all of that. All the stuff you've got to do. 30% should go to, we shop, we dine, we have experiences, etc. But 20% should be going to your future self. And if you can afford more, experts say you should be able to have 3 months worth of salary in a savings account that is accessible for any rainy day, etc. So people ask me, is that the gold standard? And yes, possibly it is the gold standard. That's what we should all be aiming for. But that's not how you start. How you start is the little bit, whether it's 10% or 20%. How you start is making sure that you are deliberate about your savings. How do you get deliberate? I've set up my savings on my money app. So I am lucky enough to bank with Nedbank, and I have this easy investment tool that is on my money app. I can set up repayments into my investments, short-term, medium-term, long-term savings. I have access to pockets, 30 notice accounts, fixed deposit accounts, unit trusts on this one platform, and it takes me less than 2 minutes to open up an investment. In that, I set up recurring payments. Before my money even settles in my account, it is out paying my future self, because my future self deserves it, and I think you do too. So automate that saving, automate your investing. And I've mentioned to you the various products, and you can also see them on screen. People talk to me about, but do I really want to invest in myself in 15 years' time? What if I die? What if I do different things? What if you're alive and not able to live your life? I am going to be retiring, and it's a scary thought, because for me, 20 years ago, I was in high school. I still remember the conversations I was having. I still remember the friends I had. In 30 years, I'm going to be retired. I want to eat what I eat. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to live comfortably. And I don't want to be a burden on my children. And there's no way I'm going to be able to achieve that if I don't make the change today. So for you, retirement may be even further. But you may want to start a business. You may want to travel. You may want to build a house for your parents. Whatever it is, if you're not planning for it today and paying that future person who can do those things, it's going to be very difficult unless you're going to use the crutch of debt. I speak to young people all the time about side hustles because, like I mentioned in the beginning, what I love most about young people, and not the senior youth like me, really young people, like the people on this panel and people in these conversations, that there's energy. If you want to start a revolution, you start it with young people. Similarly, if you want to do really game-changing things in your life, you should start young, right? So whether it's a side hustle and not a side hassle, because it's got to make you money, shouldn't just hassle you. If you're starting a side hustle, whether it's selling magwinya or muffins or whatever it is that you're good at, start it. And take that money, invest in your business, build multiple streams of income. Because you don't want to focus on one sort of income stream. If COVID and lockdowns have taught us anything, is that things can change just like that. None of us saw this coming. None of us saw the last 18 months ever. I've never fathomed it. I think I lived through the 2008 recession, and I thought that was bad. This has been a bloodbath. We've lost more than 2 million jobs in this country. We've seen the ripple effects of those job losses in terms of unrest, etc. And people really, I haven't seen so many people begging on the street, and it's heartbreaking. So if you're still in a position where you can change your life, or you can future-proof your life in some or other way, I challenge you to do it. Like I said, you're able to open up savings and investment products on the Money app. We have various budgeting tools that you can use as well. On the Nedbank Money Edge site, you can go there, find out what anything you really want to know about money, how to budget, what to invest in, what to start with, how to deal with your debt, how to really segregate your money into various goals, you can find that out. The information is at your fingertips. I challenge you to do better. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda, for Sisandile. Sorry. I'm still thinking of Amanda because it was such a powerful one as well. Thank you so much for always giving us practical advice. I love how you always factor yourself in your stories and making it sound so practical and relatable. Really love that.
Thank you.
So, you, ladies and gents, have the opportunity to officially ask Sisandile questions. So any question that you may have with regards to the talk she just gave, I would really, really appreciate that you drop them right here. The engagement is still going really crazy, so we appreciate that too. I'm going to go to the first question. The question is, Sisa, you spoke about the importance of financial fitness. How can athletes make sure that they stay financially fit, especially women athletes who face the challenges of equal pay? Yo. Guys, if you didn't think Sisandile is smart, she's about to drop a bomb on y'all, because that question is a mouthful.
Oh, Bab, I don't know. Over-promising, under-delivering. I think women in various fraternities face similar challenges. There are women in corporate who say, this guy does the same job as me, but he gets paid 3 times as much. Oprah Winfrey says when she started off in broadcasting, she went to her producers and said, this guy who happened to be a couple of years older than her earns 3 times more than I do. Why is that? And they said, but you don't need the money. So I think women
What
face
does that even mean?
What does that even mean when I'm doing the same job, right? That forced her to go and start Harpo Studios, which was amazing. But I think some of us don't go that path, or we can't go that path, and not all of us are going to be entrepreneurs, to be realistic. I think while we fight for equal pay and gender equality, etc., and we are all activists for it, it has changed quite a bit, but it's going to take a lot of time, particularly in fraternities like sport. It's just, it makes me very sad, and I'm very passionate about it, so I don't want to go crazy about it. But I really think what you have is what you have, Pam. If you've got 10 Rand, you've got 10 Rand. Your duty is to make sure that 10 Rand works.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that most women are taking care of families, children, extended families, etc., but you've got to do with what you've got.
Yes.
The sad part for me is seeing athletes, entertainers, corporate women spending your money like it's always going to be there, or not looking after your money. And not looking after your money is just letting your money not work for you. I say this often, that if your money is not working while you're sleeping on your money. So you've got to make sure that
you said if
your money is not working for you while you're sleeping, you're sleeping on your money.
Bars. Where's the mic for us to drop? Amazing.
100%. So if you're making money right now, remember the future value of 100 Rand is not 100 Rand. 30 years ago, you could buy a burger at a fast food joint for 3 Rand 40. That same burger, possibly smaller, is now almost 100 Rand. It's the same burger, it's the same company, it possibly tastes the same, but the value of money has changed. So if your money is not compounding, like I said earlier, which comes with consistency, then you have a problem. So whether you're a female athlete, whether you are Pam, whether you are an artist, whether you are a person who has an amazing career in corporate ahead of them, you've got to make sure that the money that you've got is working for your future self.
Let's go back a bit. I love this analogy of this burger analogy. So you're saying that if I put away 100 rand today, right? Today 100 rand buys me that burger, right? In a couple of years, that 100 rand won't afford me that burger. However, if I put my money away today, it will grow to such an extent that I can afford that burger in that same value in the future.
100%.
Your mind, Sisa, your mind. Absolutely love it. I love it. So in the future, you will afford it with the same $100, but you have to make sure that $100 grows.
100%. And if you really are consistent, you might afford a burger, chips, and a Coke.
Light bulb moment, amazing. So as a young person who is looking to be financially fit and manage their money well, what can Nedbank offer me that other banks may not be able to offer? So this is your elevator pitch.
I've mentioned tools like the Nedbank Money app, right, that really make it easy for you to open up investment and savings accounts. Like I said, in less than 2 minutes. I often open up pockets and things sitting in bed, or pay into my investment sitting in bed or on my way somewhere, and it really is that easy, because also it's got to be easy. I don't want things that are hard. Life is already hard, and I can set up recurring payments. Also, Nedbank has recently launched a money tool which is called Nedbank Money Edge, and you can go there, like I said earlier, you can go and learn about various investments. You can learn about how to get out of debt, how to manage your debt, how to save, and how to approach your finances. So I think for me, those are really game changing, right? Because then you can get honest with yourself, and you can also go in there and take various courses to understand really how much do I understand about money? How much do I really know? And you get some advice that is not so formalized that it makes you feel intimidated, right? So I think those are the two things that really set us apart. And we also do have an award-winning app, a banking app. So hey,
I mean, not to brag, or I saw that. So the next question is: you also mentioned that we are what we spend. For young people who are spenders or find themselves spending more money unnecessarily, how can they go about changing their habits and staying consistent?
I say this all the time that, when I was young, I remember buying this car. Firstly, it was so big. It was like a sedan. I have no kids. I don't even have a dog or a cat. But I bought this car I couldn't afford to impress people I didn't even like. So it's very important. I call money a personal story. It's a very personal story. That's why you find people who grow up in wealthy families approach money very differently to people who grow up in poverty, because there's various things that validate you along the way.
Yes.
Someone was saying that if you look at Jay-Z 20 years ago, he had all these chains and he bling. What did they call it back then? You wouldn't know. It was called ice. We call it
Excuse me.
You youngins won't know. But you look at Jay-Z today wearing shorts and a white t-shirt. I saw on Instagram as well, someone was saying, if Instagram is giving you pressure, look at the owner, it was Mark Zuckerberg. Shorts, t-shirt, slobs. So it's very important to take a step back and understand why you're spending your money the way you're spending it. Often it's trying to validate yourself in certain circles. And if you really dig deep, those circles mean nothing to you. Because you've really got people who are real. That's one. And then I think we need to get out of this. My mother used to call it morasal morasin mentality. Morasal morasin mentality.
I think that the new line now is, what if we die tomorrow?
Exactly.
That's the new one. What if we die tomorrow? People are dying.
What if we die tomorrow? But also, what if you don't? What if you don't? And you are living in your yesteryears, right? You are the has-been of your life, and you gotta live with yourself. I mean, the life expectancy now is estimated at around 100 per individual. So imagine living till 100, and you used to be living la vida loca, flashing it up, and you don't have this thing. So I think for me, practically, it's that principle of paying your future self first. Take a decision that you are investing in the rest of your life, because if you do it like that and you approach it like that, the best days are actually ahead of you. And imagine how exciting that is, that the best days of your life have not happened. But also, if you don't take care of your future, the worst days probably haven't happened.
Yo, Sisandile, yo. One thing about you, I'm pretty sure people are like, okay, let me open that investment account today. You know, I love it. So the question that we have next is, what are some of the basic steps one can take in order to get out of bad debt? So, for instance, a maxed out credit card.
So I love that because I feel like whoever asked that question was probably trying to be modest about their situation, because a maxed out credit card is usually 3 or 4 and not
Really?
just one. Or
It's
that
actually hectic.
and a personal loan and, right?
Because people usually take out another to pay. Oh,
100%.
Yes.
So for me, I would say, firstly, you've got to be naked with yourself, be naked with your finances, get all your finances and all your debts in a row, and get your settlement letters. Understand, how much do I owe today? Holistically, how much do I owe this person? How much do I owe this person? Secondly, what's the interest I'm paying on each and every one? I always say you want to earn interest, you don't want to pay interest. Because when you're earning, you're paying yourself. When you're paying, you're living for somebody else, right? So you look at the interest that you're paying on each and every one of your debts, and you see the highest one is the one you want to tackle first. So if you're paying 21% interest, because I've seen crazy things like that, on one credit card and one is 8, you want to tackle the 21% first, because that's where most of your money is going to go. Another principle is, don't just pay the minimum payable amount, because that's what keeps you in the recurring debt. Because you pay the minimum, then you take the money out or you use it. Pay a little bit more. And reduce your credit spend limit as often as possible. And you'll find, if you pay a little bit more on, whether it is your credit card, whether it's a store account, whether it is a personal loan, you'll get out of that debt quicker, because you're tackling the interest quicker. Even your home loan, if you can. And then you'll be in a position where if you finish one, you can then take that money and pour it into another one.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to just pay a little bit more, pay the one with the highest interest, and be consistent about it.
Amazing. So start with the one with the highest interest.
Yeah.
And what about payment holidays, or just like talking to the banks or whoever you owe to say that, listen, realistically,
Yeah.
I'll take this long to pay
Yeah.
you. Are you able to do that?
So payment holidays, right? I think they're an amazing tool. And Nedbank have also, as a bank, in response to lockdown and COVID, we were really fast to respond to say, people, you know what, we will give you certain relief.
Yeah.
But I said to people, if you don't need it, don't
take it. Yes.
Because you are also sort of restructuring your loan. And if you need it, it's better to go that way than to default.
Yes.
It's better to go that way than to get a bad credit record, etc. But if you don't need it,
Don't
continue
take
to pay if you can. And if you are in a position where you are really between a rock and a hard place, there are various debt consolidation programs that you can take a consolidation loan and pay one installment instead of multiple, right? And that's
Okay.
usually reduces the amount that you pay on a monthly basis.
Amazing.
But it all goes back to you being honest with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to be honest with yourself and with the bank or whoever you
100%.
owe.
All your creditors. Correct.
Or your creditors. Okay, perfect. You see, like we're getting somewhere. So not all hope is lost, because I think because people lost their jobs and everything, it may have led you to maxing out your credit card
Yeah.
or a couple of credit cards,
Yeah.
as Sisa may have said. So I think it's really important for you to take that bit of advice. And how do you then go about it? Do you go to the bank and say, listen, this is how
This
much
is
I
how-
pay I get paid right now, and this is what I can afford to pay you. What plan can we work out?
Correct.
Is that how you approach
you
it?
can, yes, you can do that. If you, whether it's a branch, whether it's your banker, or a website.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. So that is how you,
Nedbank.co.za.
ladies and gentlemen, can be on your way to financial fitness and wellness. Okay? Okay. So let me look for one more question for you, because today it's crazy. It's crazy. It is definitely crazy. Okay, amazing.
I'm getting nervous
Don't
as you're
get
scrolling.
nervous. Don't get nervous. There's just a lot of questions. It's just a lot of them. I'm coming across Amanda's question. I think my last question for you would be, So if you are in a position now where, like the previous person, you've maxed out and you've maxed out your bank credit cards, bank account, everything is just maxed out and just like, oh, I need some help. Where do you go? What is it called? Is it called a specific, relief or whatever?
So often cases it's called debt consolidation.
Consolidation.
So you either get a debt consolidation sort of loan or debt counseling.
Debt counseling.
Or debt counseling. But you need to be very clear about going that route, because it does have sometimes the debt counseling has some kind of impact on your overall credit rating going forward. So read the fine print, guys.
Read the fine print.
Seek the help, but read the fine print. Also, when you get a debt consolidation loan, please ensure that you use it for your debt.
Okay,
because
amazing.
Some creditors, or rather some debt consolidation providers, don't necessarily pay the creditors themselves. They will trust you to do it. So do that for yourself. Make sure that you do that for yourself, and make sure that you are honoring those payments. And you are honest with yourself.
As per what you
Correct.
promised. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us
Always
yet
a pleasure.
again. Amazing. I think we'll have you again the next time, or Mam Wendy, And thank you to you guys at home for continuing to vote on the polls, to ask questions. It's really important for you guys in order for you to win some awesome prizes and earn points. Remember, the leaderboard is looking really, 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 really tense. So you have to make sure that you continue to vote and make sure, there it is. Moses, we see you at 100 points. And shortly after Moses is Uneli, we're at 27 points. Guys, I don't want to lie, you're doing really badly today. It's a really bad leaderboard because we usually have about 180 points leading at first place. So please do pick up your socks because there are awesome prizes to be won, and the YouthX Summit is coming up really, really, really soon. So do make sure you do that. Thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A session with Sisandile Cikido, and I hope this wealth of knowledge has contributed one way or the other to your journey of financial and fitness. Remember to visit the unlock.me website to get the latest on YouthX news, blogs, upcoming events, and more. Visit www.unlock.me. Click on potential and learn more about careers, how to unlock your side hustle, how to unlock your next big career breakthrough, and helpful hints on how you can climb up that ladder. To create
Power Panel.
a bank that is committed to creating a platform for the youth to have constructive conversations about money and opportunities that lead to sustainable growth during these unprecedented times is definitely the content that I signed up for. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the final part of the show. Please help me welcome our all-women power panel. Our changemaker for sports and wellness, Amanda Dlamini. Head of Retail Investment at Nedbank, Sisandile Cikido. Our local changemaker, Thandy, Matlaila. And finally, our panel facilitator, Thato Moeng.
Thank you so much, Pam, for that wonderful intro. I hope that everybody has been enjoying these Unlock Me session. I certainly have been. In fact, I've got some questions for Sisa and Amanda. And we also do welcome our local change maker, that is Thandy Matlaila, right here this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed everything so far. Don't forget, after this session, you do have a chance to ask those Q&As. Ladies, I know that Thandy has dubbed this WOW. Thandy, can you elaborate exactly what is WOW? Because we're here for this sports and wellness chat right here for YouthX Live.
Wow is how wow we are, guys. We are the wow factor, but we are also women on wellness. She is in financial wellness. She is in physical wellness, and I mean, also you are in as well. career wellness. So hey, we are wow ladies.
Wow, that definitely is the hashtag for the day. But don't forget the other hashtags, hashtag YouthX and YouthX Live. Starting with our changemaker, Amanda Dlamini. Amanda, when you got the call from Nedbank to be part of this wonderful concept and initiative to actually see how we can give these masterclasses to young people out there, what was your reaction?
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Thato, for the opportunity. I think for the longest of times, so if you listen to some of the interviews or some of the conversations that we have as women in the game, we always try to reach out and cry out for these sort of platforms to sort of tell our story, but also give a better reference, because there's so many perceptions and so many stereotypes around female athletes or just women in the game, So I think for me, having this opportunity afforded by Nedbank to speak to the youth as well was quite important, because then they get to see what really happens, behind the scenes, the person that you see on the screen, on the field, what it really takes to get there. But also just to answer the questions that people always, inboxing on social media. I'm sure we all always have it, what do you do? How do I get into the space? So I'm really honored to have been given this platform to share my story as well.
Absolutely fantastic. And Sisa, I was listening to your masterclass and I got so many pearls of wisdom. I'm like giving my money from Peter to Paul. I thought that was very, very interesting. Can you elaborate more on that about credits?
So, you guys know how I feel about this. I'm like, women are so amazing, right? And happy Women's Month, ladies.
Oh, thank you. Happy Women's Month to you too.
Gorgeous. And I'm so honored to be on this panel with you guys. I think the most amazing thing about women is that we are forces of creativity, but creation, right? So we've got this energy that can do anything. So depending on what you do with that energy, you either build or destroy.
Yeah.
Right? We look at, for instance, our book of savers and investors. Over 50% are women, right? You look at home loans in the last 5 years. There's been an exponential growth in the home ownership of young women owning homes. And these are women under the age of 35.
Cool.
Compared to their male counterparts, right? Because that's energy channeled in the right space. Equally, we know how to spend.
Yes.
We know how to chop that money. Okay. An old colleague of mine used to say,
And that is time.
right? We don't. And I used to be I was brave when it came to that. Like, I can pay every month, it's fine, So I think it's very important to, I probably sound like a broken record, be naked with yourself.
Okay.
It's like when you're naked and you've got multiple, in a changing room, when you can see all corners, you're like, maybe I should eat a salad. That type of thing. So we really need to be naked on that level with ourselves and say, maybe I should eat a salad when it comes to my finances.
Yeah.
Maybe it means I adjust for 6 months. I have a very good friend of mine who, firstly, like she's like
a
that,
wow.
ula, and she's one of my right? She's one of my accountability partners.
Yeah.
And we have both sat down with each other, and maybe you don't have that person, or maybe you do have that person. Maybe for you it's a banker, maybe it's yourself and a spreadsheet, but for us it's okay. It's batala for this nonsense. This thing of having so much debt and looking like we've got money. I guess we were obsessed with looking like, I look like money, chum, that's a
I
thing,
look like money.
right? But we've made certain adjustments, right? We've had to make some adjustments. And she has moved back home. I told you guys about my story where I had to move in with a relative to make some adjustments, whether it's, I don't know, not buying that car right now, whether it's not buying that Balmain jacket or whatever you're trying to buy.
That looks really
or
good.
the bottle of champagne at restaurant prices when you can go home and drink it for less than half the price, right?
And don't have to tip.
Okay,
Talking about
I am not
experiences.
stingy.
So it's also making the
you've gotta make
changes
the
that you need to.
adjustments in your life.
making those changes. And that's why we have our change makers here. But Thandy is our local change maker. And Thandy, usually we're used to seeing you as an actress, as a thespian. But you also have a really lengthy career that you've really invested in with regards to wellness. How did you bring that balance about?
I've always been fascinated about wellness, and wholesomely so, like, wellness, holistic wellness. So whether it be physical wellness, spiritual wellness, and physical wellness. But physical wellness for me, especially in the career that I'm in, it played a very important part because, hey guys, you can cosplay what size you are. So physical wellness has always played a big part. And for me, it was easy because I'm a very active child. I love, I still call myself a child.
You're somebody child.
You are what you believe, Thandy. You are what you believe.
So I mean, when I left matric, I was an SA gymnast, and immediately after that, I went to get my my colors in cross country. So physical, So it made it easy for me to play in this space because now when somebody sees me running a race, then just not. It's like something that has always been in her. So physical wellness for me has always been a part of what I do. But COVID forced me to actually try to, put it out there so that people can pay me to see me talking wellness.
And I like what you're talking about, where this is something that you're very interested in, but you've made sure that it also brings in the bag. Coming back to you, Amanda, I mean, football was your life, and also trying to change that concept, or rather make sure that you feed into it into your sports broadcasting life. How's that work for you?
It was a very difficult transition, of course, because familiar territory is just me being on the pitch, playing and leaving everything else to the likes of Thato to do interviews and so forth. But now finding myself, in front of the camera and having to read the game and translate the game to all the other viewers, it's quite different from the way you play the game. But playing the game affords you the experience so that you can paint a picture, so I think for me it was just to make sure that I learn as much as I can in that space, because it's important. You can't just walk into a space and be like, hey, I'm Amanda Dlamini, I've played, so this is what I am all about. So you have to have a teachable mind, so that it allows you it allows you to grow. And for me, I've just really tried to be quite consistent with that.
And she is quite consistent if you do check her out. And of course, it is Women's Month, and we've got an all-women's panel here. In your respective industries, how have you found that there are pros and cons of being a woman? Let me start with you, Sisa.
I was hoping you'd start somewhere else. Firstly, I feel like I need to put some respect on both these ladies' names. I mean, I feel like you guys have done such amazing work.
You're just as amazing.
Being a woman in corporate and then being a woman of color has had, for me, I've had a lot of benefits from it. I think I am part of an organization currently that has really, really backed me and really put me out there, exposed me in ways I could have never imagined. I think before joining Nedbank, I was very different to who I am right now. And 4 years later, I know it's been 4 years, I'm like, whoa, guys. 4 years later, I have grown in my thinking, I have grown in exposure, I've had the benefit and the honor of working with very smart people, like 1.5 million times smarter than me. Like, I sometimes walk into a boardroom like, hi, Matini. And then, but I think a culture of learning has been amazing in that space. That being said, I've had to do a lot of work in terms of putting myself out there. I think there are a lot of internal battles that we fight as women, and particularly, and I'm not sure about other industries, but particularly in the corporate space, we fight a lot of this imposter syndrome, because oftentimes you're the only woman in the boardroom, or the only woman of color in the boardroom, and you don't believe that you have enough to say, or you're saying the right things. It's so easy to second guess yourself. Also, I mean, our history, we're taught to be the nice girl, just sit down, don't talk back, let the boys like you.
The
you know?
nurturer.
Yeah, that's what we fight each other for the boys, instead of really showing up and backing ourselves. A very powerful book I read a few years ago, titled Lean In.
Okay.
I think it's Shannon Goldberg, something like that. But she used to work for Facebook, and for me, it really challenged me. She makes an example of her and her brother being at Harvard, both students at Harvard. The brother hardly studies. This guy's like, I know this thing, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna write this thing. Goes in, writes. Excited when he gets out. He's like, no, I did it. I did well. She studies, like she puts her time in, whatever. She comes out of the exam room, and I don't know. I'm sure you guys can relate.
Yeah.
Comes out of the room crying. She cries for days. She's like, I could have done this. I could have done that. Could have done that. They both come out with A's. We find it very difficult to back ourselves and believe in ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of the challenges that we face are not even external; they are internal. And obviously there are the external challenges. We spoke earlier around equal pay. We've spoken about the opportunities that you just get. I think men also, some of my mentors are men. I have a couple of mentors and most of them are men. And I have one of my mentors is a white male. Well, two of them are white males. And I always say to them, but it's different for you. You walk into the room and people already respect you. Right? And for me, I've had to challenge myself to say, and also you get people who say to you, no, you're only here because you're pretty, or you've got a nice body, or your boss has a crush on you.
Yeah.
And those are the things, sadly, that women say about each other and to each other. So I've had to challenge myself to shut out the noise and really just be my authentic self. Forgive myself also and be kind to myself for the things that I don't know, and allow myself to learn and open myself up to spaces that will allow me to learn, where people will challenge me, yes, but not take it in a bad light. Take it in a way that this is something that's going to make me grow, and really put in the work.
Discerning from the positive and the negative
100%.
criticism. And Thandy, for yourself as a woman in wellness, what have you found have been your challenges? What is it that you've seen in that space that has grown and you're really, really proud of?
The fact that, I don't know if this is going to sound okay, but
It all sounds okay.
the fact that I didn't have to use my body to get the things that I want in the industry.
Body girl, you didn't use it.
And you see, and that's exactly the thing.
Yeah.
No, it's great that you touched on it, especially in the industry that I'm in. You know, when when I was trying to play into, you know, I had to firstly position myself in terms of, when Thato meets me, whom do I want her to meet first? And I made this decision when I got into the industry that people need to know me as an artist first. You know, and all the men, and that's why I've never really had a manager who lasted that long, because for them, they were just like, yo, girl, you've got a hot body, so this is what you need to do, this is what you need to post. I'm like, no. I need people to respect me as an artist first. And I've known Thato for a very long time, so I'm sure, like, if she would go back on my journey, it's only like 3 years ago where I would post, you know, bikini pictures. I've never. They're like, I'm like, because I didn't want people to focus on that. Now that I'm comfortable that nobody has got it twisted, that I'm an artist, I can do all those other things. It's just a matter of, she's got a nice body. She didn't use that body, you know, to get the things that she wants. And that's how I've always wanted people to know me as. I am in wellness, yes, but there's more to me than, and that's why I like to work with holistic wellness. There's more to me than having a nice body. There's actually a brain, you know, there's actually other things that come with Thandy.
I'm going to get back to the question of the business of wellness and how it's changed. And right now, literally, someone is cutting onions because I realized how long I've known you. Like, I've known you for a while. Amanda, for yourself as a woman in football and in the space of broadcasting as well, what have been your challenges?
Sure. Now we're going to start chopping onions for real now.
Do you need a PowerPoint presentation?
Oh, man, I do. Man, I do. You know, I'll try and you know, be a bit concentrated on this and not steer away from it. But just a very small example, but very, very profound. The mere fact that we still had to struggle in finding kit that is designed to fit a female athlete or female soccer player. For me, that is it's just crazy.
It's rude, right?
It's rude.
It's
It's very disrespectful.
And it happened.
It happened. It happened. And I mean, to certain extents, we've had to wait for the guys to sort of get extra kits that we can use because there's no kit that is designed for us. And I think already from a point of performance, you already go into the field, like you're saying, there's internal, there's external. Internal could be you probably didn't have a great week of soccer practice preparing for a big match. And of course, externally, you don't feel good in what you're wearing. It's oversized. It's men's cut, guys. Like, where's the confidence in all of that? So there's just so many things that we still had to go through. But from a point of football, in the footballing space, just that equality, that equity also, because to a certain extent you fight equality, but then you're like, wait, hold up. But this is not supposed to be equality. It's equity. I am supposed to get this by right. You know what I'm saying? So I think that space also afforded me an opportunity to learn and see these things happening around me and lend my voice into trying to change those things to sort of be okay and acceptable. But I mean, we've made some gradual steps towards that, but it was something that was just like a no-brainer for me. I couldn't believe it. But of course, that thing of just being always a second guest because you are female. You know, also in the broadcasting space, it's like, how, Amanda? You're so beautiful. Like what do you mean?
What should I be?
What do you mean? Because of the perceptions and stereotypes that female footballers are, you know, just tomboys. Inwele zabo, the hair needs to be cut short. They're always wearing baggy, saggy things. And because you're out in the sun, you're not supposed to look cute or wear makeup and lipstick. So when a lot of people were introduced to Amanda, I mean, a lot of people have been tracking my progress in the structures. But when they saw me on TV, they're like, wow, you're not only cute, but you can actually even speak the game. You know the language. And I'm thinking to myself, am I supposed to take that as a compliment? Just, I mean,
really?
But we as kupula, as a mountain, you like, I appreciate where you're coming from, but there's just so much of more work that we still need to do in changing the perspective to be a bit more different so that people appreciate you for the talents that you bring and not how you look or you're supposed to look or because you fit into some form of culture. We would see in this culture of football, people need to look ugly, they're uneducated, and that's one of the things. You're so eloquent.
Can't read.
Oh my gosh, you speak so well.
You're speaking like years old.
You know what I'm saying? So in all honesty, Thato, we come a long way, but I feel like there's still so many more other steps that we still need to take. But of course, it starts with such conversations where we don't really have to keep our cards so close to our chest, but to really tell the people what it's like so that people out there can actually start making change. And that's why we're called changemakers, because we have to be in the forefront of being the difference that we actually want to see.
And what I love about your story, Amanda, because I also do personally know it, is that you used something that was perhaps something that was going to bring you down as something that you changed to push your brand, because that is something that is so intricate in your brand to make sure that you correct the perception and how female footballers are seen. How did you develop your brand throughout the years as well to what it is today, A90?
Well, I think just to pick up from also that statement, emotional intelligence is very, very important. I think for everyone, but more especially in the space of sport, because it's easy to get carried away and lose yourself and lose yourself in those comments and so forth. But I think, Thato, I've had to sort of try and reinvent myself. I think I had to sort of sit down man to man and discuss in Davaguti actually who is Amanda outside Ibanyana, who is Amanda outside of football? Who am I? Can I take certain things and incorporate them in my brand? What can I leave out? What do I need to change? But one thing that has been very consistent is just me saying exist purely as yourself. So internally, I'm consistently myself. When you meet me, you're meeting the same person you're going to meet at a soccer field, in the boardroom, in studio, or wherever. But it's just externally where I express myself differently. I dress very differently. I dress according to my mood, and people can't tell me what to dress or not. I show up as myself. I wear makeup in tracksuits, and I deliver what I have to do. So those are some of the things also that we still need to try and educate people towards, which, guys, let's just appreciate what we see in front of us. So I think also coming to brand N9D, I wanted to offer people something of comfort that doesn't choose. That doesn't choose whether you're male or female, what color you are, but you choose comfort, you choose to express yourself, exist purely as yourself, and just own your royalty, because I do feel that each and every one of us has a bit of royalty that we can carry and possibly just succeed in whatever we do.
Be an Amanda. and you know, Thandy, I think with COVID-19, we've seen the world change so much. Social media all of a sudden comes into play. Everybody is now at home and is a gym fanatic and a wellness expert.
Yes.
But how has the business of fitness and wellness changed within COVID? And how is it that we better express ourselves on social media and use these tools to put out our business and what we actually do in wellness?
Actually, as much as COVID period has had a lot of negativity, it actually pushed me to work on myself within the wellness space, because I mean, all these years, wellness for me has just always been a passion. It's always been what I love to do, mentor people in terms of wanting to, to live well. But when COVID hit and, obviously productions closed down, you had to rethink and be like, but I can do this, and I live this every single day. So it's also been easier for you to tap into it. And what it has done is you then had to sit with yourself and ask yourself about, everybody's at home right now. What is it that they want to see when they log onto their phones? You must remember that people are fighting anxiety, people are fighting depression, people are fighting obesity, people are fighting a lot of things. And what Amanda was talking about, they're fighting inner demons within themselves, because now they've got a lot of time to themselves to think about themselves. So what is it that you're going to bring out to the people that can actually help them to be better people? So then that's when Wellness on Wednesdays was born. Okay. Where then you have conversations on wellness, different wellness journeys. So that's one of the things that it has helped, one of the steps that it has taken. If COVID didn't happen, I don't think WOW would have happened, you know, but so I'm grateful to that. And then you realize, you're like, okay, now people can't go to the gym. People still need to work out. How is it that you can let people, live healthier lives or more active lives within the home? So then that's when you try to create home workouts. And I always like to do things that I have experience in. I'm not going to go now and suddenly become a chef. Like,
Have you been watching my Instagram?
Like, choose your struggle. And I was just like, I'm not going to be cooking for people because that's not me. But I love working out. And I'm utilizing the things that are in my house. Literally, I've got like 2 sets of dumbbells. You don't need like a whole... You don't need a gym.
Expensive gym equipment.
Like, you don't need it. If you've got 2-liter bottles there in your fridge, fill them up with water. So, and then that's when the home workouts came in. And to a certain level of or another, then it invited the brands to come over, because now they also like, well, people can't come to the gym or people can't go out to do this. And if you've noticed, most brands have got this whole what brand home workouts or be your best at home. And that's when now they start coming and they're just like, keep doing what you're doing, just use our hashtag, keep doing what you're doing, just wear our gear, keep doing what you're doing. But and I was like, I can work with this. I can really work with this. And obviously then you grow in the business, because you also need to educate yourself. You need to invest in yourself. And as you were saying, you need to constantly reinvent and invest in who you are. So now you start reading about, so how can I make my engagement more appealing to the people, but you also don't want to lose who you are. You also don't want now, there's people who've got like curated content and you're just like, is this person even like a person?
We see you,
and that it's okay, because it also goes back to what kind of brands are you trying to attract, So in wellness, one of the things that for me, it doesn't have to be for everybody, is being authentic. going back to Amanda's point, my motto in life is work on yourself, for yourself, by yourself. The world around you will adjust to who you are if they really want to be a part of what you do.
Yeah.
You know, so but obviously you're gonna tweak it here and there just to fit their brand profile. But you can't lose yourself in a brand where they even ask you, they're like,
go jump off a cliff. You're like, for how much?
Wait, it's like Amanda sekane publicist ngoba kusuye lo khulumayo lapha. You know, then there'll be things like those. So it's really been a very interesting learning phase within COVID, because then you also just try to make the content that you bring out. You want to make your voice appealing. You want to make your content appealing, but also you want people to know that this is me. This is me.
And you know, Sisa, I love the fact that Thandy is also speaking about COVID-19, which has really literally become our new normal. And in this new normal, a lot of people have then tapped into their natural talents at home, starting small businesses. I'm going to start literally focusing on my photography business and professionalizing that. Financial fitness when it comes to investing in your dreams.
So I think what the ladies have said is so paramount, right? Take yourself wherever you go.
Yeah.
Like whichever room you're in, make sure you are there.
Okay.
Not someone else. So even when you start your side hustle, make sure it's you are there in it. To what Thandy was saying, you're not gonna go and be a chef if you know you are going to bend the eggs. The eggs are gonna burn. Leave it.
She
My porridge.
All I'm going to say is go follow Amanda and you will see the worst porridge making in the whole entire world.
She cannot be bad as me.
No. Listen, then trust. The worst.
Yeah.
You can continue.
So I think that the most amazing thing about being human is that we're also multidimensional, right? You're usually not good at just one thing.
Yeah.
So it's very important that when you're looking at other things to do, that it's your hobby, it's something you really like to do, and it comes easy to you.
Yeah.
Like I said in my talk earlier, make sure also that it's a side hustle, not a side hassle. So if it's not making the money, let it go. Right?
Let it go.
Find
But what if
something
you've got
else.
passion?
Is the passion going to fund itself?
Pushy passion.
You know, and I
That's
think
true
you've
though.
got to be very clear and very honest again with yourself. Not every business is going to make $1 million in the first couple of years, and you need to be clear, or need to be clear about what you're trying to do here. If this is a side hustle, then really, do you want to take the money that you're earning day to day to fund this thing that is a bottomless pit? Does it have potential to turn around?
Yeah.
What does it mean to pivot? Are you agile in this business? And what is the greatest potential that it can reach? And sometimes we don't look at it that way, because a lot of us are forced into entrepreneurism because you either can't find a job or you can't make ends meet, etc. So we're not very clear on the business side of this thing. And I'm sorry, I'm going to bring the corporate into this.
That's
does the
okay.
business case hold water?
Okay.
Period. So every business case will have a loss period, but there has to be a time when you break even and you need to start making profit. And if that doesn't happen, and you need to be very deliberate and clear about those timelines, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or a year, then you need to quit it. Unless you're willing to keep pouring money down a hole. And you know how I feel about that. So I think be very, very clear with yourself, and don't be precious. Don't be precious about things. Don't be precious about a business. I said the other time when I was talking to the guys that, you know what, 100% of nothing is nothing, hey? Like, if your business, you've got this amazing idea, which often we do, right? But because Sisa is the idea person, the creative, Sisa's not the finance person, Sisa's not the HR person, or Sisa's not even the investor. But now I want to be precious about either doing all these roles or making sure that no one owns a stake of this business. I want to own 100%.
By myself. It's mine.
Instead of getting an investor who is also going to help you be deliberate about how you kind of target your business and where you want to go with it, right? And your plans around it. But you want to be like, no, I don't want a big brother. I don't want to be answering to anyone. 100% of nothing is nothing. 100% of zero is zero. However,
What's depressed?
don't be precious about it. I think be agile, be willing to learn, you know. I think, and the beauty about youth is that you've got time, all things being equal. You've got time on your hands, so you can change, you can pivot, you can do other things. So make sure that your side hustle is not a side hassle.
Very interesting. As I go home and change my side hassle into a side hustle. Now, Amanda, also trying to wear these different hats of still playing football, being a sports broadcaster, and that not only starting a brand, but that is a business as well in its own. How did you come about that? Wasn't it scary when you went on this journey of, now I'm going to go and financially look at how I can improve my brand?
It was very scary. It was very scary because I think also COVID put me in a tight corner to say, okay, if you're not on production, what are you doing? Where are you getting your source of income from? So, but because the dream has been planted for from a while ago, I then decided, you know what, this is an opportunity for me. I've got so much time. Let me try and think of a logo. Let me try and design something and see how that works. But of course, the fears that you project, Tuguti, I wonder, will people receive this very well, or is it going to be a miss? And then it's, oh, Amanda, I tried this and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But also when you're projecting your fears on some of your prospects, sometimes it takes a negative knock. So I just had to have the faith and believe, actually, I thought about this, I prayed, and I spent so much time investing in this. Let me see how it is going to work. So I started small with t-shirts, and and then because people received the brand so well, I thought to myself, maybe I can expand. But of course, like Usisa is saying, you look at that financial plan, you're like, am I going at a loss, or am I? Because it's also easy to get carried away. Yeah. Just because people are ordering, it doesn't mean that exactly. Yeah. So I think, Nami, I'm still in a process of learning and really trying to find myself or find my feet in that space.
And I've been trying to be a brand ambassador for A9D, but she has refused me the privilege. Someone who also works a lot with brands, Thandy, how do you manage to please all the brands that you work with, and how does one actually become a brand ambassador and attain that kind of elevation?
First of all, I need to say, you're not there to please the brands.
Okay.
Especially if the brand came to you.
Okay.
And sometimes they get it twisted. They feel like you need to be doing this and this. You're like, no. You came to me because you know I have something to offer to you. So now when you are going to curate all my content for me, it's not going to work. And that's why if you check my social media, the number of brands that I work with is very small. And that was a personal decision that I took, because there's certain brands that you're like, I've always wanted to work with you. Yes. And then they just like, we want this, and that. And I'm like I'm going to give a typical example. There's a brand that I've really always wanted to work with. And then I was excited. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. This is what I've wanted. And then it came and they're like, oh, okay, we're going to start with a 2-month, was 3 months. It was 3 months campaign, and we need 3 posts from you every week.
Yeah.
3 posts on my Instagram every day.
Yeah.
No, every week. I was like, and I had to, now I miss the man sitting here, but I had to be honest with my brand, and that's what you need to do. And I was like, and I had to explain to them, I'm like, I can't give you 3 posts a week. I can give you 3 posts a month, because remember, in a week, guys, at the most I have 5 posts at the most. So 3 of those posts, it's a how.
Yeah.
Happy I'm working for you.
Yeah. But isn't that being a brand ambassador?
No,
not exactly.
Not exactly, because they still need to fall in line with what you do, because that's not all that you do. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
That's not all that you do. There's more. Right? There's more to your brand than being, doing the work with Nedbank. There is still FIFA that you need to put in. There's still that energy drink that you still need to put in. Mind you, when you've got Nedbank 3 times a week on your timeline, where does FIFA come in? Where does her own personal brand that she's trying to push come in? Where does your clothing brand come in? it's for me, it's not sustainable, especially because Kemotu who posts 5 times a week. Now I must extend my post and have 10 posts. Already your followers are going, "Hi, uthanda posta kakhulu manje." You
Got
do you understand?
Thandy,
And you
I
try to
will
retain.
say, I will post Netbank 3 times.
Just say it.
Just saying. We've got about 58 seconds left on this panel chat. Thank you so much, ladies. I do know that there is a Q&A coming up immediately after this for any of the questions that you have towards our panel. That is Sisa from Netbank. You also do have Thandy, our local content change maker. And then you also do have, of course, our change maker, Amanda Dlamini. Ladies, it's been absolutely fantastic. All I can say, it's been a wow kind of day. I literally learned so many things. I'm going to definitely turn that hassle into a hustle. And I really do hope that everybody else also learned something from this panel discussion. Very, very informative. And I'm so honored to have learned something from you ladies.
Thank you, ladies.
When we ask who runs the world, they answer girls. Remember their names. I know we said power panel, but that was absolutely wow. It was a power panel indeed. Shoot those questions in the comment section and let's engage these dynamic individuals. I know they've shared a wealth of knowledge already, but if you do have any questions, please do drop them. And remember, that will earn you points and put you at the top of the leaderboard. The first question goes to Amanda. You probably have experienced a gender inequality on and off the field and in many areas of your life. In a male-dominated space, how important is it as a woman to make sure that she stands her ground and not be labeled as difficult woman?
Right, because we are always labeled as difficult. I think, like I said, existing purely as yourself. It's one of the most important things, and that means your values, your morals also need to be in the right place, because it's easy to get steered away from your purpose and what it is that you want to do. So I think for women, when they find themselves in that space, one, you're not there to compete with anyone.
Yeah.
You're there because you've got something to offer, and it's important that you stand your ground based on what you can offer, and not because you're standing your ground on what you cannot learn. Because when you find yourself in that space, there's so many opportunities of growth and for you to learn. So it's very important, I think, that you adjust to both, that you stand your ground, but also still have a very teachable mind.
Yeah.
Teachable mind.
The second question goes out to Thandy. Would you say that this is a sustainable field, and what is your advice to young people who want to enter the space?
Definitely, it is a sustainable space to play in, because it deals with your well-being. It deals with human beings, and you will always have human beings who want to be well in whatever space. So the advice that I can give people is that you need to be honest with yourself. You need to know why you've entered the space. Yes, money is an element of it, but you need to be passionate about it. If you are not passionate about it, it is going to show. Because you're going to get times where you're going to be tired, not want to work out, but you need to remember the end goal. You need to remember why you started in the first place. So you just need to be authentic, and you also need to be passionate about what it is that you're doing.
Amazing. The next question is for Thato. What are some of the challenges you have faced as a female broadcaster, especially in a male-dominated field?
That question always comes up, and it's a question that I sometimes, over the past decade, have probably tried to avoid. Because yes, I work in a male-dominated industry, and yes, it is very difficult. You want to go out there and tell them it's easy, it's all roses, but unfortunately, it is very difficult working in a male-dominated industry, and you literally have to get yourself into the club and get accepted in the broadcasting world. But the one thing I have learned in hindsight is, like Zozi Buni Twinsi says, own your space. Own your space. You are your only critic. Most of the time you get there and you already have these misconstrued ideas of what everybody else is thinking. But if you are teachable, like Amanda's saying, and you believe in yourself and you know exactly what you want to do in that space and you own that space, before you know it, you are going to be the head honcho. Everybody's going to be wanting your name, but own your space and believe in yourself. It is very difficult. I'd be lying if I said it was easy. And you just walk in. You are literally most of the time seen as a pretty doll who doesn't know anything. Till today, 12 years later, being in the sports broadcasting world, do you actually know what you're asking? I'm thinking, yes. But you need to own your space. You definitely need to own your space. There will be doubters out there. Take the positive criticism. There is positive criticism, but also throw away the negative criticism, because most of the time it's just jealousy.
And the question is for Sisandile. Sports people, more especially footballers in South Africa, are known for overspending money and not saving enough for the future. What advice would you give to young professionals or athletes who are starting their careers in this field?
I think my advice is no different to anyone I would give advice to. It's a simple, I think, principle of paying your future self, taking care of your future self. The reality is, in the sports fraternity, not everyone is going to be an Amanda. Not everyone is going to have the continuity of a career within that space, right? So when you're earning money, make sure that you're doing the right thing with that money. But we've also learned and seen in the last 18 months that having a corporate career isn't necessarily the most secure thing ever as well. How many people have lost their jobs? So I think we need to get away from this thing of it's the job security. Job security, there's no such thing. The world can change overnight, and we've realized that no one saw COVID coming. No one saw these lockdowns coming. I mentioned earlier how I've seen more beggars on the street. And the sad part for me is these are not people who are in torn, raggedy clothes. These are people who you can see this guy is wearing X pair of jeans that are designer and a nice jacket. And life has changed. Yeah. This is someone who probably had a small business. So I think it's very important that when you're earning money, make sure that the money is working for you. Don't buy things unnecessarily. I think, guys, life is nice. Having things is nice. Right? Nandi! Where's Maula? Where's Maula? And it's exciting, right? Yeah. It's just important to have the bigger picture. I remember my parents used to say to me in high school, and I mean, I wasn't the most popular girl, so that probably helped. That probably helped me a little bit. But I mean, there'll be moments where I'd getting distracted, I want to do things. And I still remember my uncle saying to me, these things can wait. All of it can wait. If you really think about it, most things in your life can wait. So a handbag can wait until you've saved up for it. So can a pair of shoes. And so can that trip, even if it's on sale. I always say it's 50% off, but for you, it's actually 50% more expensive because you didn't budget for it. Oh. It's 50% off for the person who can afford it and the store, not winner.
Well, my dad always used to say, when it's 50% off, that's the actual price.
100%, right?
That was the actual
100%.
price.
But it's only a benefit if you are the one who could afford it in the first place. So if you're taking money from, I don't know, your investments or money that you could be saving or school fees or whatever it is that is, because I've seen tragic things. I've seen the most tragic things where people don't pay their rent or their bond, and not because they're not earning money. So this is, for me, this is why I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're in sport, whether you're in entertainment, whether you're in corporate, the principle about money is the same. It's a psychology and it's a personal journey. You've got to be deliberate about how you handle your money. You can't just leave it to chance.
The next question goes to Amanda. When you're leading a team, similar to how you led Banyana, you need to be mentally strong. What guides your mental wellness?
Sure. I always just believe that we always have to have our coping mechanisms in place. I think also in the sports space, because there is just so much that is going on. You read a tweet about a game, about you, and it'll just throw you off forever. You think you're having a bad season, and it's just a game, and you probably just made one mistake. So I guess also emotional intelligence is very important. So part of my coping mechanisms, I always have a book that I can read. I play a lot of music, so just to clear my mind, and it's very important, but also quiet time. The more time that I spend with myself, I then get to just learn so much more about myself. So I think a lot of people also in the sporting space, they don't take care of their mental health. And it is so, so important. Steve Compella, the one time after one of the soccer players in the league had not really a bad game, but because Twitter streets are so wild, he didn't have so much of a bad game, but that experience, I think a lot of people started talking about it, and he honestly encouraged him, go to the mall, go buy something that you feel, something that you like, just for the day, even if it was ice cream. It didn't have to be, a designer, but even if it was just an ice cream, just because you need to take care of your mental health. That space is very, very, it's so important.
Conversation we need to have about mental wellness in sports.
Right?
Yeah.
In sports, Thato, in sports. Yes, it's very important. So I think just have your coping mechanisms around you, things that will work for you, and so that you find your tranquility, you find your anchor, and that is always your center. So I think for me, those are some of the things that I do.
Amazing. The next question goes to Thandy. You are a registered aspiring athlete with Athletics South Africa. Should we be expecting to see you at the Olympics soon?
Ooh, ambition.
Paris, here we come.
No, you know what? This is the thing. You can expect to see me at the Olympics, not to go compete. But I'm such a huge supporter of sports, and I love it. And sometimes I really believe that us as the supporters are just as important, you guys. So maybe one day I'll be a part of the IOC, the International Olympics Committee, because that's one of the passions that I have, especially that I can also learn about other sports. But for me to compete, guys, you know what? And I admire professional athletes, guys. It takes sweat. It takes a lot of work. So it also sometimes breaks my heart when people are just like, and she's just like, you don't know what she's been through this day. And it's so sad because your life is out there. People are putting money on you, People are betting, woman of the match. And when you don't deliver, then people feel like you owe them something. So, and if I go to Olympics, guys, is South Africa is she going to bring us the gold medals? And when you don't, they're like, I was disappointed. How, guys, did you guys as a country give me the emotional support that I needed? Did you guys ensure that? And this is what I was saying about our Olympics team. I'm like, they went through so much. They could have been physically ready to go and compete, but they think about all these things. They go to Umawami back in South Africa, does not have electricity. My little brother back at home, Upetwe COVID, I don't know if he's going to survive. So many things go into being a professional athlete, not just you being physically okay. And that's why you are right when you say we need to have these mental wellness conversations, because they play a huge part. Mina, and I'm going to be honest with this. Mina, mentally, I'm strong. And I guess that's why I can wake up now and go and run at 25. Because I really have a strong mind, and sometimes ngingamshiya umuntu who's been training for a whole year because they've got so much that is cluttering, and that's why you need to learn how to detach from certain things. You need to take care of yourself. Self-care is important, guys. It is, because it can help you a whole. It's not bad.
We saw that
not
mental wellness at with Naomi Osaka and Akoko with the likes of the gymnast as well right now at the Olympics. So you're very right about that mental wellness.
So Ngizoya as a supporter or part of the IOC guys, ngiyobanikeza lama conversations about wellness.
Yeah. And the last question goes out to Thato. Thato, you have been in sports broadcasting for some time now. What are some of the changes you have seen and have had to adjust to, rather?
Well, I've had to adjust to quite a lot. You know, I think I was talking to the ladies before we got into this panel discussion that when I started sports, Twitter didn't exist when I started sport broadcasting. And all of a sudden, the world has changed so much. I'm literally super new to TikTok and everything because that is the new trends. But sports has definitely changed. When I started in the sports industry, there were literally less than 5 women working as sports broadcasters in South Africa, and that is Cynthia Chaka and Carol Chabalala. And you also had my boy at that time, now Lutulunyane, and Cass Naidu. But that's about 5 ladies who were working in the sports industry. And I think when we met as well, you literally were coming to studio to chat about Banyana, and there was a small studio and nobody really cared about that Women's World Cup. And look at us now. There'll be a whole channel dedicated to women in sports. So a lot has changed over the years. A lot can still be done. But I love the fact that the space is now open. You really have more people coming into the space. It's not only 3 faces that we used to in sports broadcasting, but definitely more people are coming through, whether it's radio, print media, or on television. You've got more women being introduced into the spaces. And people are actually also focusing on the fact that women play such a crucial role in sports. The administrators, the physios, we know about them now, but they've always been there. So a lot has changed over the years, but obviously a lot more can still be done. I need to use social media much better. Thanks, social media manager.
Amazing. Thank you so much to the ladies for holding it down on the power panel today. And that's all we had time for in terms of the Q&A, but you can continue engaging on the platform and see what we have in store for you next week. And that's it for today's installment, folks. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and learned a thing or two about how you can navigate the fitness and wellness in your life. Also, financial fitness. I didn't even know financial and fitness existed. So as we continue to celebrate Women's Month, let us not forget the 20,000 women in 1956 who marched to the union buildings to fight for their rights. We salute you and say thank you for speaking out and standing up for what is right. With that said, remember to please stay tuned to the unlock.me website and social media pages for more information on our next YouthX Live event coming up next month with our tech and innovation changemaker, Rivo Mhlari. Remember, to all our media guests, please do join us in the breakaway room where you can interact further with our guests and ask any more questions that you may have. Be on the lookout for the breakaway room link that will pop up on your screens shortly. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to hosting you at the next YouthX Live event. We had Rich Mnisi, Shaw Majosi, Candice Chira, and so much more in the past. So if you didn't catch up on all those events, do make sure you catch up right now. From me, my name is Pamela Mtanga. It's been lovely being your host.
Thank you for joining us for this amazing YouthX Live session. Catch our changemaker next time when we talk innovation and tech. See you there.